your future.
He's on where?
I just saw him.
Okay.
He's in our chat. Yeah.
Okay. I don't see him yet. Which weird.
I just saw him. He might not have his mic on or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't see his portrait.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, it was there.
Ah, I see him. I see a Monty.
Hey, Monty.
¿Qué pasa?
Oh.
Yes. Okay. Well, it just seems that Matt can join us, unfortunately, because of reasons.
I'm not going to talk about those reasons, you know.
Post-Victorian problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, it probably started around that time. Yes, how are you, world?
Oh.
I was upset. I went to sign it. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I went to sign in and it said I'm the only one here. And I thought, well, that's lonesome. You know, I felt like I was standing in a cemetery by a river.
Okay.
Horrible.
Yeah, we tried to
There's
get
Whitby
Matt
pun
on.
in there.
We tried to get Matt on, but for some reason,
Well, I'm glad you didn't try to get Matt off. You know, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So yeah. Unfortunately, we have to do it without him. And with that being said, I should just.
I'm not even going to touch that. I'll just say I got lost in the translation. Yes.
Well, just have to start without him, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Which is kind of too bad because his article was the thing that started, which was an article in the Independer where about the Whitby Goth weekend. I'm saying that correct, right?
Yep.
And basically, there was a person in the article of the Independer complaining that there were too many steampunks on a Goth weekend. And I think there was also a remark that steampunks complained there weren't any steampunk bands there.
Okay, let's take the first comment. Okay, repeat what you said.
I should have got the quote.
The Goth said there was too many steampunks there, and they weren't there to see the Goth. No, the first one.
That the first one. Okay, I need to express my feelings because I have been both patted on the back and pummeled for what I have said privately to a couple dozen people. I think the whole thing, and this is nothing against Matt, don't misunderstand me. The whole thing actually started with an article by a woman that was writing for The Guardian. Which is a newspaper here in the UK, Zirk. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. It is like most tabloid newspapers, an attempt to appear exotic, but they are still a rag, as are a lot of papers here in the UK. I know they don't have things like that in Holland,
You're talking about how they posted a picture of steampunks instead of goths when they covered the weekend. I saw that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And if you read the tripe that this, I won't apply a biological tag to it. The reporter, commented. She was basically stirring up the shite. Well, I slipped out on that one, didn't I? Oh well. In any event, I think this whole thing is kerfuffle. I think it is created. I think it is an attempt to get one genre against the other. I have been to a couple of the steampunk or the Whitby Goth. Hey, Matthew, welcome aboard Flight 714. Glad you could make it. Okay. And I frankly think I'm just expounding on the woman from The Guardian who wrote that BS article, talked about Goths and was showing pictures of steampunks. I think she is trying to cover up her own asinine mistake about not knowing what the hell she was talking about. And in so doing, she's stirring up crap. Okay. I think what she needs to do is to go away and take a refresher course, you know, a 101 program in how to be a competent individual, okay, without trying to be the belle of the ball. Okay. She has about as much tact as a turkey gobbler fucking a deflated football. Okay.
Yep.
And what you wrote, Matt, I think, and you can cancel our meeting. I think what you wrote was rather interesting, but I don't think it totally reflected the issue. As a steampunk who has gone to a number of goth events, okay, okay, let me back up. Goth in the UK is I won't say it's different than the US, but it's much more intense. It's been around longer. Okay, it is much more developed. There is much more panache in European Goth than there is in US Goth. I don't know about Canada at all. I've not been to any events there.
I think North America in general is different. I think you're right. And I know where you're going with this. I agree with that observation.
Okay, and as such, okay, I think there is a justifiable potential concern on behalf of Goths here in the UK. I think that they are actually more disturbed about seeing Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman on a motorcycle, and small children dressed up in fairy costumes and everything else than they are about steampunks. I have always had a very favorable relationship as a steampunk in steampunk attire with goths. There has never been any headbanging. There's the occasional giggle from both of us about the way we look, but then that comes with the turf. Matthew, you went away.
Oh, he's still there.
No, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I frankly think the whole thing is bollocks. As far as US Goth is concerned, with the exception of very, very few that I have met, Goth is part of the fluid look, okay, and actually is more attached to horror cons than it is an individual subgenre identity of Goth.
Yes, that's my experience with my group, because we're closely tied in with the horror crowd, the horror con.
Exactly.
We don't have the steampunk festival. We don't have goth festivals. We don't have anything like that out here. And the closest thing that gets to a festival that accommodates our brand of kind of public, art is we do kind of the Comic Cons to a certain degree, but yeah, like you said, the horror con and the whole goth thing isn't there isn't the tradition behind it in North America that I think there is in the UK. And
in the UK, there's a massive, very respectable tradition.
Yes, yeah, and absolutely. Yeah.
I think they have been terribly gracious, okay, in accepting and acknowledging that steampunk is there and that we can work alongside, and we're really not a threat to each other. And I think the woman that originally started made an error, and in trying to cover up her incompetency, only offered the opportunity of a wider gap being formed by others jumping on the bandwagon. Not that anyone would want to jump on a bandwagon. Oh, God forbid.
Okay, anyone desires to reply on that?
Well, I think the issue of the article that I wrote wasn't actually about. I'm getting from what you've just been saying there, Monty, that you're covering what is Goth and what isn't Goth, and what. steampunks have been welcome at Whitby, but more recently and more frequently, they're becoming unwelcome. And there seems to be this kind of old school goths who they want to go back to the old days where it was just a music festival for goths. They don't want anybody else there.
But they have always been there as a tangent of Whitby from the very beginning.
Well, of course they have.
They had problems when it wasn't exactly the same second or third year in a row.
It could be argued that it's their. It could be argued that it's their festival, and we shouldn't be there, but we are there, and we've helped it expand. I'm not saying that means that we have a right to be there, and that's why I wrote the article saying, should it be a time where we decide to gracefully bow out? And we've got the Whitby Steampunk Festival coming up in February next year, so maybe we don't need to go to the Goth weekend. But people, steampunk's like a good old shindig, and they like to go and enjoy themselves. And Whitby's a beautiful coastal town to do it in.
Right. And I absolutely feel that any Goth that wants to come to Whitby Steampunk should be more than welcome and brought in with open arms.
Well, they would be, of course. But then I've actually had a couple of stories. Someone's left a couple of comments on the article, I believe, or a similar article. One guy said he went to the recent steampunk weekend. I think it was Haworth. He went dressed as a vampire, and he said he was made to feel unwelcome twice, I think, at least. One within the first hour of being there, which is unusual. And then another guy who lives in Lincoln, who's a goth, and he says when Asylum is on, he has some, he has troubles with steampunks there. But I think maybe the way he was talking suggested that he was already on the defensive, and any kind of abrasion would have kind of set him off a little bit, I think. Right. Because of these issues surrounding Whitby Goth Weekend, I think they've upset quite a lot of people.
As what you're saying, there is always the singular or sometimes even multiple issues of one or two things popping up, where someone doesn't like this, and of course the loudest squeak gets the most grease. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are speaking for the majority. They are speaking for themselves. I find Lincoln disturbing for steampunks, because of all the steampunk watchers. And by the total influx of non-steampunk individuals who do not maintain a very cordial, polite attitude. There were some people there this past August, that were downright rude, and I just sort of bit my tongue and walked away. I didn't recognize them, not that I'm going to recognize 5,000 people off the top of my head, but I did contact CCV and they didn't know who the hell they were either. They just sort of come out of the woodwork, and it turns into basically, and unfortunately in many people's eyes, a glorified freak show. And as such, the naysayers and the "we told you so's," and everything else all start coming out of the woodwork. They all sound like the majority because they are the loudest.
I agree with that.
I think Monty, you actually made a very good point that I can have a little story I can kind of relate to, and but in an interesting way. You say that it only comes to the forefront when one of those squeaky wheels squeaks really loud, right?
In most cases, yeah.
Yeah. And my group, we're from Western Canada, and we have never come out and said we're a steampunk band, and we certainly aren't a traditional goth band. We are just a theatrical art group, and we have
good one too.
Oh, thank you. we have performed for goth crowds and steampunk crowds and heavy metal crowds and sideshow freak show crowds equally. And when we were in a couple steampunk functions in the UK, at first we were very, very concerned that what we were doing was not in line with that, not in perfect line with that subculture overseas there. And what we found was our experience, as we talked about it in retrospect, was that everyone loved it. We had no problem with anyone. Everyone was. However, what I'm getting at is any of the sideways glances or bad attitudes that we may have encountered, and there probably were people that looked at us and thought, "What the hell are they doing all the way over here? That's not steampunk. That's weird," or whatever. Or they're goth, or you can tell they're not real. You know, whatever may have happened didn't, because we didn't pay it no attention at all. We went about our thing. We made a ton of friends. We had a very successful tour. And we did not allow any one tiny instance of anyone even locking horns with us. We didn't even allow it to happen. It never happened. But I'm just saying, like, if I tell my bandmates, you know what, I think it probably did happen, and we just didn't even give it a second thought. We never even noticed it, you know.
Right.
And I think what you're saying is partially true. There's, you know, when a few people stand up and say, "I was at Lincoln and this happened," or "I was dressed as a vampire here and that happened," are they telling the truth? Yes, of course they're telling the truth. It's not like it didn't happen. But again, you look at is that, like, going back to that article, is it blowing a few isolated incidences out of proportion to the point of creating some sort of conflict that's not really there, you know?
Right.
I don't know. I'm not qualified to comment on how the Whitby Goth weekend, the attendance. I can't comment on that. But just as a very interesting side note, my group was actually asked to play in Whitby this year, and in addition to having played at the steampunk festivals. So there you have the anomaly in the middle there.
You need to come back and play at Phoenix.
Phoenix, yes, I know all about Phoenix.
Yeah. You need to be there because you would come across, compared to some of the bands that appear at Phoenix.
We would look like the hell down to earth at Phoenix.
You would look like, you know, Fluffy Bunny and the Three Hip Hoppers, you know. And, you know, all you have to do is wiggle your ears or your ass, you know what I mean? It's Phoenix is another world. But then I think that also goes to prove a point that I said a number of years ago, that a particular steampunk individual has publicly taken issue with, and he and I have talked about it, and we laugh and we keep on going. But there is no such thing as steampunk music, okay? With country, western, blues, jazz, they're rock, punk, everything. There is a sound, okay, that you hear, you know, a few bars, and you go, "Oh, that's blues. Oh, that's jazz." Okay, there is nothing with steampunk. Steampunk is music that steampunk likes. Okay.
I've heard you say that before, and I've quoted you on that.
And what works in Indianapolis would never work in New York, and what works in New York might work in Seattle, but it definitely won't work in San Francisco. And it's the same here in the UK, okay, but to a lesser degree, okay?
Yes.
There is more of an acceptance of everything in all parts of the UK, and as well as the EU, at least in my experience, okay? It doesn't have to be a specific sound. And the bottom line is that it works. And people love it, okay? And that's what counts the most, okay? Many times it's not the music that's presented, it's the band that's doing it and their quality, But
Yeah,
we won't get into that.
it's a theme and it's an aesthetic, and I think I talked about this with a couple of you before. For some people, it's a lifestyle too. You know, just like
Yes.
the
Yes.
guys, the heavy metal crowd going to these huge festivals, and that being the kind of centerpiece of their summer or whatever. It's becoming like that with this as well.
Right. Matt, are you still there? Did you drop
I'm
out?
still there, dude. I think that's the
Okay.
ironic thing about Whitby is that they want it to go back to how it was, but then the actual music festival side of it, which is what it was originally developed as, has changed now, so that and they don't even have traditionally goth bands on. I think last year they had Heaven 17 playing, and they're not considered a true goth band.
Exactly.
And going back to what you were saying before, Mike, about how you're not traditionally you don't consider yourself a steampunk band. You'd be surprised how many bands who are working their way around the steampunk circuit don't consider Metropolis, for instance. They never set off as a steampunk band.
I know. I've encountered that. Yeah, and actually Metropolis is a very good example too. But all the steampunk community bands that I've become friends with have all said the same thing to me at some point or other. At some time or other, they've all said, we're not really a steampunk band, but the steampunks like us. And I think what they mean by that is, yeah, at some point someone did say the steampunk is a type of music, and then immediately all these bands that were playing in the scene thought, oh, well, crappy. I guess I'm not really part of this, but I'll keep playing these festivals as long as they keep asking me, but I'm no longer allowed to call myself that. And who cares? Like it's just, I don't, it's like two people seeing a color and someone saying it's yellow and someone saying it's green, and it's actually somewhere in between, and it's just not really relevant,
Well, no, it's actually in my eyes, it's purple versus magenta. You know what I mean? It's like you're looking at shades here.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's almost 50 shades. Oh, never mind.
Hey, right. Okay, so do any of you fellows play guitar?
No.
Okay, well, there's a brand. This is just a funny color story I was thinking about earlier. There's a brand of guitar strings, Ernie Ball. That's the biggest guitar string manufacturer in the world. I worked in a music instrument store for about 15 years, and the most common set of strings they have, the regular electric guitar strings, are this kind of funny yellow-green color. And everyone will either say, I want the yellow strings or I want the green strings.
Right.
And then depending on what your opinion of that color is, you may take that package, but there's another set that is colored more yellow and another set that's colored more green. So you end up with all these different opinions on a color, and it's a color. We're not even talking about music or some, it's actually, it's a color. And
right.
Yet, and I actually witnessed at one point a staff member and just a customer getting into a heated argument about not understanding what is more yellow and which is more green. It was insane. Right. So is it like human nature to like nitpick over crap like that?
You gotta. Well, I'll shut up now because I almost got vulgar, but more vulgar. I'll clarify that. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Sometimes it's like people just want to hear themselves talk or bitch or feel that they have to say something, otherwise they're going to look like a very large rectal sphincter. Yeah. Okay, so they have to make a statement. Well, carry on, nerds, and URTZ. Like was it you or Matt? I believe it was Matt. No, it was you, who said, you don't even get into it. What I found that shuts down an awful lot of people that are looking to get their nails into your back, okay, is that I just tell them, that's really a fantastic opinion, and we're all entitled to one, and you move right along. Change the subject. Go to the candy floss. You know what I mean? Your wristband is really lovely today. You know what I mean? It's whatever. There are some people that just look to get themselves in. Actually, the ones that are blending in amazingly well with steampunk that haven't said boo hiss about anything, okay, are the 1940s, okay, are the Diesels, okay, and the VE and VJ Day reenactors. They are having a ball with us, at least the ones that I have run into.
Mhm. But what's it about? How is it in the Goth community? Do they have the same kind of discussions about the type of music they have?
Insofar as my experience, it's funny because I think there's more people over here that consider what I'm doing a little bit more part of the Goth community, but the hardcore traditionalists in the Goth community don't consider anything we do Goth, you know. So but again, you're comparing a huge scene with a long history overseas there to our scattered membership over a vast expanse of land here in Canada. So, and again, I'm not qualified to speak for.
I kind of think you can include the U.S. in that too.
Yeah.
I truly do, because I am not familiar at all with Canadian Goth. Okay.
It doesn't exist.
Okay, because I suspect it's probably quite similar to U.S. Goth.
Yeah, in that it doesn't go back as far. When we visited the UK, because some of our group, myself being one of them, we were very, very huge fans of the original kind of early to mid 80s kind of first wave of Goth. And
Right.
We were ecstatic to be there and even see band like if you ever see our friends Glass House Museum, they are literally a descendant of that scene. Just a slight bit younger to have been active in those years, but not by much. And what we noted was that the scene there, the Goth scene, has a membership that is at least 15 years older, or 15 to 20 years older than the membership in the North American Goth scene. North American Goth didn't really kick off until it really got pushed into the commercial arena with things like Marilyn Manson and whatnot, you know.
Exactly.
And then you get people say, well, that's not really Goth, that's heavy metal with makeup. And I don't care, that's fine. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just saying that's the difference with North America, is that it came more hand in hand with kind of heavy metal makeup bands, you know, like there's a lot of people that are into Marilyn Manson that dress Goth. If you played them, I don't know, some Fields of the Nephilim or something, they'd probably go, huh, you know, whatever, you know. So you can't even. They're almost like not even the same scene. They're not even the same thing. There's no comparison. Our Goths are the older Goths around us are in their 30s, and the older Goths overseas are pushing their 50s and 60s, right?
Exactly.
So you can't compare them. They're different species altogether.
Bonsart, what is the name of the Goth festival in Germany?
The Treffer.
Or Matt?
Oh no, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, I know which one you mean.
Because
near Weimar, right?
That's where you could go, where you would just sort of stand there, you know, with your jaw down on your kneecaps. You're looking at probably conservatively, what Bonsart, about 10 to 15,000 minimum.
Yeah, something like that. It's huge. It's all over the city, I think.
Of Goth. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is that for the last couple of years, steampunks have also been involved in that festival, and there has not been a singular complaint, moan, or groan that has surfaced beyond someone's personal opinion. In other words, everyone is allowed to, you know, opinions are like rectal sphincters. Everyone's got one, and occasionally they make noise. And there are always a few of those people around who just want to micturate and moan. Okay, but they as a group, there has been no declaration that says, steampunk aspirates everybody get out of Germany, and it's been a blend that has worked well.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
it's worked well in Whitby for a few years, though, hasn't it? It's been going longer in Whitby, I think, as well. I'm not off the top of my head. I don't know how many years we've been going there, but certainly for the 3 years that I've been running the journal, it's been that people have been visiting there. And maybe it's going to take a little time before people finally start getting so. The thing that the Goths really seem to be getting annoyed at are, in my personal opinion, a little bit trivial. They don't like the fact that they're constantly photographed. The steampunks are photographed instead of Goths. And one person highlighted the fact that he couldn't get accommodation because as he put it, the highly organised steampunks had got in there first. And the simple answer to that is, well, this has been going on for 20 odd years now. You know when it's going to be. You know when Whitby Golf is going to be being held. It's not like you can't speak to the hotels and say, "Would you mind reserving me a room?" Then,
Right.
for special occasions, they will usually book that far ahead in advance anyway, so that they know they're going to get booked up. So,
oh my God! So they're upset that the festival is getting so successful that it's attracting nor other people,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
like,
I know, right?
I've been telling people, you're no economic venture is going to succeed if you're only catering to this, if you're trying to keep it so exclusive that only people that fit your ideal of a customer or of a patron or concert goer, once it opens up, once the doors blow open, that's when true economic success happens. And I think the Whitby Goth Festival, they accidentally walked right into it with the steampunks. And the steampunks, they want to dress up, they want to go to these things, and they go to every. I think, because I recognize some people around the UK at more than one event. It was like families took a holiday and went to 3 festivals.
Exactly.
And they're looking for something to go to, and the Whitby Goth weekend is one of those things that they could go to. And like you might not go to, like, I don't know, a monster truck rally dressed up like a steampunk, but the Whitby Goth weekend sounds like fair game. Let's go to that. There's nothing going on here, and we're down in the area. Why not? And so suck it up. Book your hotels early. I mean, it's becoming a successful thing, right?
What totally threw me off at Whitby, to the point of where I was talking to a werewolf standing next to me, okay, is that there was a massive influx this year, okay, of Comic-Con people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that totally, completely threw me off. I mean, I can deal with steampunks, I can deal with goth, I can deal with the mix, I can deal even with a few, with the VEVJ Day people. Okay, I can deal with the Edwardians. I can even deal with the Prussian reenactors, because hey, let's face it, that was steampunk and it works in. But I just got totally thrown off by Batman and Superman, and it was losing its atmosphere. So in that respect, I can understand how a true dyed-in-the-wool goth can feel.
I agree with you on that.
What I remember is totally down the tubes, and all of these invaders are showing up. Steampunks are easier to point out, okay, because we have a name. You know what I mean? It's like, it's easy to go, those steampunks, okay. Well, let's change the phraseology. Let's go, those Comic-Con attenders, okay. And and the bottom line is, Matt, to get back to what you said, if it is that well honed that it's working, I'm not listening out. It's like, if people are making money, no one is getting hurt, and the majority of people there are enjoying themselves, okay, so be it. That's part of it.
Yep.
It will dwindle. You know, those that are just there for the lark, you know, what I call the polyester polyamas, you know what I mean? If you know, they went on eBay and paid, you know, 20 quid, you know what I mean, for their costume, they'll put it away in a box and maybe even wear it next year, but they'll get tired and they'll move on. You know, it's also what I refer to as the blister pack steampunk people. You know what I mean? They've gone out, they bought a, you know, a combination goggles, monocle, and mustache in a blister pack. Okay, they've got a hard molded bowler and for top hat that they paid, you know, 99 quid or 9.99 for. Okay, and they glued a glitter on their left buttock. Okay, and so now they're steampunk. Okay, and they'll get bored with it and they'll go away. They'll move on to something else. You know, they'll
Now,
yeah.
to continue on that.
Oh, hi there. Who is that? Is that the moderator?
Yeah, I'm still here, believe it or not.
Oh, that's when you closed off. I, you know, went out for a sandwich, you know.
Well, to have a little change on the subject, got some comments when I asked people if they wanted to be on the panel, stuff like that. One of them was that.
But they don't want to be here to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
They want to set you. They want to set you up as the foil because they don't have the chutzpah to stand up. Okay, go ahead. Shoot.
Yes, probably. So there's that. But there were some people who mentioned that, you know, that steampunk being, you know, later than goth, has taken something from the gothic aesthetic. Many goths or many steampunks have been goths at some point. After all, that steampunks don't want to recognize that. And there was a remark by one of the vendors that was at Whitby, and mentioned that a lot of goths actually bought his steampunk stuff.
There you go.
I think a lot of it. I think a lot of the some of the costuming accessories and things. I think a lot of them are the same. I think some of the materials are the same. Although I think some of the first steampunks did come from a kind of a goth tradition. I think it's not the same now than it was when it was in its infancy.
No,
I think some of the first steampunks that had not, there was no music yet. There was no tribal tradition about it yet, but there were. Just like, remember cyberpunk? I think steampunk was, people were going, cyberpunk's too, everyone's doing it. I'm gonna look a little more old fashioned, but I'm gonna look like this creature that, you know, that, and I think that's where some of the first steampunk that I ever noticed, probably 15, 20 years ago, that the first hints of that fashion were in the goth scene.
Mm-hmm. It surprised how many goths are steampunks now.
It's a natural crossover.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah.
We're talking about the same, ostensibly the same look, okay, between the two. And there is a very small X factor of truth that the original emerging steampunks were nothing but goths who discovered brown.
Yeah.
Okay. and goth, I have two goth friends that are now sharpening weapons. Okay, and will come visit me tomorrow. But I worked as I had a pitch back in, my God, I think I first started selling accessories as far back as 2007, before steampunk even had made its own, you know, you know, like if you had top hat and a goggles, you were steampunk. And there has been an evolution. And I started out working horror cons exclusively. And as the only steampunk vendor at a horror con, I had them lined up 6 deep in my booth. And between the horror people and the goth people, they were my most amazing customers. Okay, there was a transition, at least in the US, Okay, keeping in mind that our perception of Goth is much more shallow than the European perception, in most cases. Okay, there was a transition up until about 2010-11, and around there, when it started getting definitely definitive, and steampunk sort of blossomed out of its closet and into its own festivals and conventions, probably about 2009, in around there, 2010. I forget exactly when Steampunk World's Fair started, but I kind of would consider that as the granddaddy of steampunk festivals.
That's interesting. You say 2010 because I think me and Bonsart also had that conversation. I think we both said 2010 around there, and that was exactly around the same time that I stumbled upon some bands that looked. For the first time, I saw some other groups in the global scene that were similar to what we were doing, and I saw that, they were being associated with this steampunk subculture. And I looked at what we were doing and we were like, okay, we have this kind of stately Victorian look. We had the corsets, we had all that stuff, but we'd never thought of using the word steampunk. And then all of a sudden there was a huge community of steampunk enthusiasts that were joining our fan club and buying our music and stuff. And I think one of the things was, in terms of music, because I can really comment on it mostly from the terms of the music community, was that something happened, and it happened on iTunes, and it happened on a few other platforms where the word steampunk became a descriptor.
Yes.
It became a keyword on Bandcamp, and it became a keyword in iTunes. And that happened around the year 2010. That's when it happened. Yeah.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. As soon as I can search music, okay, by using the tag steampunk, okay, that sort of means that it's locked into at least the music end, okay, of the culture.
Correct. Yeah.
And I agree with you 100% on 2010, because I can remember trying to do a search, and it earlier, a couple years earlier, and it wouldn't even take the word.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
The term is only as useful as the term goth, because goth will, if you search, if you're looking at that as a keyword for music, you'll get Sushi and the Banshees, but you'll also get Marilyn Manson. So it's about as useful as that term is as well, right? It's equally ineffective in terms of being an actual musical sound.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Any other things we take from the original article? Matthew, did you cover anything else in your article considering this?
I was just thinking, actually, it's entirely possible this could all just be a storm in a teacup, really. I remember someone mentioning that several years ago, the Goths, there was a lot of I think cyber Goths, or is there like kind of an industrial style of Goth?
There's industrial Goth here in the U.S. or over there in the U.S.
Oh, right, okay. It was either them or the cyber Goth. They started to visit Whitby Goth Weekend, and they became more and more popular. And then they started getting complained about, and they disappeared. They stopped coming. And it could be entirely the same thing, that the hardcore old school brigade who've been coming for a couple of decades have seen it changing. They don't want it to change because they remember the good old days as how it was, and so they're kicking up a fuss. And like Monty said earlier on, it's the ones with the loudest squeak that get heard. Yeah. And eventually they're going to spoil it for everybody else. If it drops off enough, it's not going to be a big enough.
Well, then they'll piss and moan about the poor attendance.
Sorry?
Then they'll piss and moan about the poor attendance and nobody shows up.
Well, this is it.
The two songs, to me, that are on the World Jukebox that I find the most repulsive, okay, are I remember when and the way it used to be. Okay? Because you know what? You don't remember Jack. You remember what you want. Okay? And the way it used to be ain't never gonna happen again. Because you know
Well,
what?
that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
Churchill,
Yeah, of course.
Churchill is dead. Kennedy is dead. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
it, isn't it? Things change, and it's never good. And memory is selective as well. You remember the
There
good
you
points,
go.
and you rarely remember the problems that you had back then as well.
There
I'm sure
you
the Red
go.
one other, moving away from the music side of things as well. Last time I went to Whitby Goth Weekend, which was I think April this year, or maybe October last year, the traders were complaining that their sales were dropping off. And it made me wonder whether actually, things like that, because it costs a lot to trade there anyway. But
It does.
they were saying that not as many people were buying stuff anymore, and I
Okay,
wondered
you're
whether it was
using-
actually getting back to basics and going to, kind of having like a cycle of life and going back to being a pure music festival like it was before.
Well, you're using generic terms. Okay.
Of course I am.
The traders. What were they trading in? Were they trading in exclusive?
I don't know, mate. I don't know, mate. I was just in the spa, and I was just chatting to some people, and they were just stood there chatting, and I joined in, and they just told me then that I don't even think they were with their stalls. They were just on a break walking around.
Well, if someone is, I found, okay, having been a trader for years, okay, if my merchandise wasn't selling, the first thing that you do is you analyze what's going on here. Okay, is my merchandise too expensive? Okay, is it beyond the scope of what the crowd wants to pay for? Or is it the reverse? Do I have absolute crap? Okay, and these people are genuinely looking for quality. I dealt in middle to upper line, and I starved. I can't tell you, at a number of festivals, cons that I worked, because it was priced. It was not first year steampunk type merchandise. You know what I mean? It was like the well advanced. People were selling crapo battery op pocket watches. Okay, for $9.99, and I'm selling key wind or hand wind, very well made, thank you very much, geared watches that you actually have to take care of. Okay, I was selling those for 49 and 59, and I had one that was about 119 in around there. The bottom line is the crowd may not be ready. And sure, I haven't sold anything this weekend. Well, it's because my merchandise is beyond what they want to buy. They're not ready to make the investment. Okay. There is one woman who I both envied and drove me crazy. She would start out with middle to upper line like I did, but if she did not do well the first day, she changed her entire pitch the next day and went down to blister pack steampunk junkies. Okay, two for a pound item. You know what I mean? And she made out like a bandit. She was actually capable of converting her entire booth, from a quality booth into a less than quality merchandise booth. So she sort of like saved the day, and that's in a way smart. The bottom line is pay for the pitch.
That's interesting. I just wanted to. I've been itching to say this. We don't have the closest thing to any sort of trader fair that we have out here for that sort of thing would be our Comic-Con, and in our hometown, the Comic-Con we have here is actually only in its third year. That's how young it is here, and
Right.
there are a few steampunk traders there. But I got to say this: last weekend, I went out to a Christmas craft fair, which is largely a lot of knitted goods and spices and carefully
Right.
dried basil. And there was
Do they sell candles? I like candles.
oh, they had candles and they had all sorts of little cute knitted
Let's all go to Canada.
superheroes and stuff. But you know what I found there? I found not one or two, but three people selling the traditional kind of bronze steampunk trinkets and watches and whatnot, and full of the cogs and gears and the very similar things I saw in the UK. And I thought, that's interesting. I don't even think these people were necessarily thinking this is steampunk. They were just thinking people are buying this, so I'm making it. You know, I didn't get the vibe from anyone there at this Christmas craft fair that they were catering to any sort of alternative crowd or subculture. They were just selling it because it sold, and it was. I picked up a giant fistful of random stuff that was, you know, $2 a piece. Oh, sorry, that's in Canada. That's like about £1 each, right? For like, it's nothing, right? And I thought that was very interesting. Yeah.
Boy, that was a slap in the wallet.
It was nice. It was cool. I came back home and put it next to this little bag of stuff I got up in Morecambe, and I thought this bag of stuff I got in Morecambe was cost me 10 times the amount, and it's the same kind of stuff. Like it was and I got wise to it. I got tipped off to someone who said if you go on eBay and look up certain keywords, you avoid the word steampunk, you find just stuff wholesale from China, right? And you can get bags of this. Monty, I'm sure you're well aware of this. You can get bags of these things from China for like a few dollars. You'll get a bag of 15 of them or whatever. And then they turn around and sell them for $10 a pop, or those goggles that everyone's very fond of. I got 4 sets of those just because I saw you know, a bulk deal from China, and I saw the exact same ones at the fairs for £20, which was $40 Canadian, and I was paying $3 Canadian per set, and they were the exact same thing. They were the same company.
Right.
So
with goggles, I always used welder's goggles rather than the plastic sides.
Rather than the plastic ones, yeah. Actually, that's the girls in our group all wear real welder's goggles because they're actually protecting their eyes from real sparks on stage. And I think that was one of the things that everyone stood up and screamed steampunk because we had those goggles on. But I thought it was neat because they actually were wearing them for a real reason. They were to shield their eyes.
Bonsart,
I can hear Mike. I can hear Monty. Bonsart, I can barely hear you, mate. He keeps breaking up.
Oh yeah, sounded like you were gargling.
Oh, right. Can you hear me now?
When you said "all right," yeah, then it broke up again.
Okay.
Are you asking about Whitby Steampunk Weekend?
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on it? Will it attract a different audience or not?
Well, this is it, isn't it? It's. I think I would imagine the organizer of Whitby Goth Weekend may be watching it very closely. If I want to be diplomatic about it. I'm going to go anyway. I'll be there for the weekend. I'm looking forward to it. They seem to have a good lineup. There's a lot of people interested in the thing. I think it's going to be fun, and hopefully, I can't see it stopping the Steampunks going to Whitby Goth Weekend.
I would hope the Goths would show up at Steampunk Weekend.
Well, exactly, yeah. I think the only way I could see the Steampunks leaving Whitby Goth Weekend would be out of respect for the Goths, just to say, look, you know, fair enough, we've got our own thing here now. We'll leave you to it, and then just leave them swimming in this huge ocean of space that they've got to deal with, and you know, and leave them to it and see how they go, you know, because for them we'll have our own thing going on. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how it's going to go. It's the first one, isn't it? This February. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be fun. I'm certainly going to have fun there. So whether everyone else does or not, even if it's at other people's expense, I'm going to make sure I.
I think there are a lot of Goths that go to the steampunk events. I think the steampunks they don't really notice them the same way that the Goths notice the steampunks. That's just what I kind of felt like, anyways. Because you know, remember the Splendid Day Out up in Morecambe? We met a lot of people there that I would specifically identify as Goths going to the Steampunk Weekend, and I thought it was really cool. And we talked to them, and I remember Candy saying, "Oh, look, there's some gothy steampunks," and I thought that was interesting that she actually like identified it as they're steampunks here, but you can tell that they're from a goth background, and nobody seemed to bat an eye. Nobody said anything, But yeah, I think there are goths that go to these. I think it's just not pointed out the same way as with the other way around. The goths will point out the steampunks, but the steampunks are a little more, kind of that the more the merrier attitude seems to prevail most of the time, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's it. And also because steampunk is completely personal experience to every person. Everyone wants to deal with it their own way, which is why you have these issues with people trying to tell other people how steampunk should be.
Yeah.
Which is obviously another panel for Bonsart to plan.
That's not black. Let me show you black. I remember when black was real black. This isn't black anymore. This is like off black. Yeah. It's about as logical as that.
You're entirely right.
Remember when black? You remember when black was black?
But I think because of that, I don't want to say we're more welcoming than goths, because I'm sure goths on a whole are extremely welcoming. The ones I've spoken to at steampunk events, like you said, have been great, and I've got a lot of respect for goths as well, because I think certainly in Britain,
yes,
they dealt with a lot of being called names and being beaten up and being chased through town because they're weirdos. And they dealt with that through the 90s.
Well, they paved the way to the steampunk.
In order that we can live in this world now where individuality is more accepted, and that's only going to get better, I think.
Right.
And even as a nod of respect towards that, I believe the Whitby Steampunk Weekend are raising money for who was the girl who died a few years ago? I forget her name now. Let me just search it quickly while I'm trying to stall you.
The goth girl that was
She was beaten up and stamped to death. Sophie Lancaster. There's a Sophie Lancaster Foundation, and I believe the Whitby Steampunk Weekend are raising money for the foundation, or they're trying to do something with them, to kind of to help support them. So, and it's like just a nod of respect towards them, really. And I think it's lovely that they could do that out of all the different charities and stuff that they could support. They've chosen the one that's close to the goth culture.
And in a strange twist of association there as well. One of the promoters who helped set up our tour this summer is now works with Midlands Metalheads, which again, so this isn't steampunk or goth. This is a heavy metal community that has done Sophie Lancaster fundraising events. I think we may have been involved with one. And now also Midlands Metalheads Radio hosts the Gothic Alternative Steampunk radio show, the Gasp radio show. So the amount of crossover between these subcultures is just, there's so much there that I don't, now we're not even talking about steampunk and goth. Now all of a sudden we're talking about metal now too, right? Mm-hmm. And they're all coming together in a similar way under a similar banner. And again, it all goes back to Monty's squeaky wheel, right? It's
exactly.
Should really be having this big conversation over one or two big, squeaky wheels, that sort of thing. Yeah. I think if we sorted something out, the four of us together, it might have been just that, actually.
No, yeah, I think you're right.
Okay. Does anyone else have something to add to this conversation?
Well, you've not said anything yet, Bonsart. Why don't you have a go, mate?
Quite frankly, I haven't heard anything about Sophie Lancaster, so I was just kind of looking at that real quick, so I didn't really catch the last thing. But I don't really have an opinion on the whole thing. Like you said before, I'm sure a lot of steampunks will go to the weekend, and I imagine a lot of goths will go, because let's face it, a lot of steampunks and or goths have friends in both communities. They're especially for the steampunks, it's largely a social thing. So they'll go because other people are there. and not because of the event. A lot of events in the Netherlands are like this, like Elfia, has kind of become known for how commercial it is and how fewer and fewer people in costume go there. That it's mainly normies, so to speak. Not that it's really a bad thing, but what a lot of people like about such festivals is that other people in costumes go there. But a lot of people keep going to Elfia because all their friends will be there.
Yeah, and then that's it, isn't it? I think steampunks like to have a shindig. They like to go and have a knees up. And I think it was Professor Elemental who said that one of the things he enjoys most about steampunk is being able to go and get drunk with his friends while wearing a silly hat.
Yeah. Is that different in the Gothic community?
And there's another type of steampunk music.
Okay.
We've just brought hip hop into it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I think going back to what Monty was saying earlier about steampunk music, he said there's no such thing as steampunk music. I guess then you take the view that there's music that is steampunk. Is that the right way of phrasing it? I sometimes get it mixed up. There's some people think there's steampunk music, and some people think there's music that is steampunk.
Oh, I think what Monty said, which is what
like.
That's what right. There's no such thing as steampunk music. There's only music that steampunks like.
That's that one. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's obviously musicians who consider themselves steampunk, and there's some musicians who think they make steampunk music.
Well, what there is, and this is what Dale from BB Black Dog said, is there are musicians who call themselves steampunk, and then there are musicians that steampunks call steampunk. Right. And yeah, and that goes hand in hand with Monty's quote there earlier. It's the same idea. Like, if someone has come up with this way of describing your music, that's their description of your music. That's their description of you. They're not wrong. That's what they call it. If your band sounds like someone taking a crap and I call you crap rock, then I'm right. Like that's in my opinion. You sound like crap. You're crap rock. Whatever. I'm just saying someone's description of what you do is not wrong to them. So you
are so terribly graphic.
But you see where I'm coming from, right?
Let's call it caca rock.
Caca rock, yeah. That's where does that word come from? Even like who says that? Caca.
Caca. Don't you know a running list of swear words from a 2.5-year-old? Doo-doo, caca-poo-poo.
Hey, Calvin, come here.
You cocky head, you.
Come here. Well, let's ask a 2-year-old. No, I was just asking a toddler about some bad words before his mom came home, but he's not gonna play. He's not gonna play ball.
Okay.
Sorry, you're missing out here.
He's not stupid.
No, he knows better.
Right.
Apparently not.
For steampunk, for example, the future is one of the greatest inspirations. It's funny how something that hasn't happened yet can inspire such huge and massive creativity.
Don't have too much respect for the old literature and play with literature. That's what I like everyone to do.
Get your stuff done. Get your stuff done. They're waiting on you.
Do it all once more. Watch me. I'm going to show you the next 2 parts right here.